Good morning. It is my day off today. It's still early in the morning and sun hits my face like I'm not in Amsterdam but somewhere, I don't know, on a resort. So I thought that maybe it's a right moment to talk about work anxiety. But first I will need to move because the sun will drive me crazy. Yeah, that's better. So here's the thing. When we think about anxiety, we tend to think about panic. Heavy breathing, shaking hands, that because for many of us, this is how anxiety sometimes feels like. But if you recall the last time you felt anxious at work, for example, your manager asked you to do something unexpected and with a lot of pressure, or maybe you were put on a spot with something that you were not prepared for, or anything else, we all have work anxiety. For some reason, I think I can guarantee that no one around you would have guessed that you felt anxious. Because what do we often do in situations like that? We stay at work late behind our desks to prepare something, this urgent thing that makes us feel uncomfortable and makes us feel anxious. Or we rewrite the email gazillion times, unreasonable amount of times. Or sometimes when we go to work, we rerun all of the scenarios, or like what I should say, how should this thing go, like when we commute to work. So the thing is, real anxiety, work anxiety, often looks like over preparing, over delivering, and overthinking. And this mismatch between what we think it looks like and what in reality it looks like is actually causing us a lot of trouble. I will give you an example. I remember when I started managing someone who was also managing someone else. So it was 2017 maybe. So I already was a manager at that point, but I never managed other managers or that senior level of people. So it was a first experience for me, and I remember how terrifying it was. I was constantly afraid to make any mistake. I always expected judgment from them because, I had to manage people who in some of the areas and professional areas were much more senior than even I am. So I was terrified. I never allowed myself to kind of let my guard down because of that. Also, it was a moment when I reported to, I think, Chief Operational Officer, and for some time even to the CEO. So there were not a lot of people around me who were in the same position. So I had a very small reference group to compare myself to. And even people who were around me, also, managers, directors, management team of the company, none of them looked like they were anxious about anything. They were very confident, they were very calm and very professional, and it made me feel that I'm so, not ready for this, or like it made me feel that, okay, then it means that it's only me who experienced that, it's me issue, which is so not the case. But it was also in Russia, and in Russia, the power distance is very different. It's much bigger than in Europe, where I work right now. So I think to a certain extent it is expected from a manager not to show any weaknesses, like there is a concept of managing, like ruling with a strong hand. So I think there is a very low tolerance towards managers showing vulnerability. And this, I think, even more fueled this fire of me feeling that I don't belong, or feeling that, maybe, I don't know, not believing in myself. I was perfectly qualified. It's just these anxious thoughts, they fuel your self-doubt in a way. So we all know the imposter syndrome. And I think, who was that? Hold on. Was it Simon Sinek? I will refer. The idea is that you have much more people who suffer from imposter syndrome in top tier universities than in low tier universities. Because to a certain extent, the higher you get, the more you have successful people around you, the more you start doubting yourself and you start to feel like you're an imposter. And the reason for that, one of the reasons, is because none of those people actually display or show that they are going through the same journey as you go. And I think to a certain extent you can avoid imposter syndrome if you just don't expect anything from yourself. But a lot of us have a very high bar. And we sometimes think that it's an external bar, yeah, that's my manager set me a goal for myself that I need to achieve. But in reality, all of these bars are mostly internal, because I think we ourselves always expect much more from ourselves than others. And this only makes this imposter syndrome and anxiety of you not being enough even more intense. The camera got overheated. It's too early for that. So the problem is we are surrounded by people who seem to be effortless and not have these anxious thoughts. But that's just not true. It's just a bunch of people who don't share their failures and never show that they're feeling anxious themselves. But the most heartbreaking thing in a way is that because of that, we don't think that, how to put this? We feel alone in the anxiety that we feel, because there is no one to relate to, and you feel that, okay, it's your problem, it's just you not being, I don't know, qualified enough or good enough or just made for the job. So we also like to copy what we see, and if we see people who hide their insecurities, then we tend to do the same. And to a certain extent, so first of all, there is this initiative or type of event which is called fuck up events. Basically, everyone gathered together and they're sharing the most miserable, the worst failures and the fuck ups that they had in their career. The idea is, first of all, the main idea is to create a space where you can relate to someone else who maybe has a director's position or earns a lot of money or visibly kind of made it in their life, and they are sharing something so vulnerable, so you feel, okay, maybe I'm not alone in my mistakes. Also, the good part of it is that you make kind of like a celebration out of it. You're like, I did such a wrong thing, and I will tell it, and let's just laugh together from it, or maybe tell what we've learned from it. So I really like it. I think I went to 1 or 2 events like that, and it was absolutely awesome. When you see someone who is even much more advanced than you in the corporate ladder in their career, and they are saying such stupid things that they've done just by mistake and how they feel anxious about it, it actually makes you feel better. And I remember after the first time I visited this event, I was thinking, does this mean that being an adult, being a professional, being an expert, having the career also implies that to a certain extent you're always battling this fear that you're the only one who's making mistakes. So it's always a little bit of reminding yourself, no, that's all good. These people, they just look everything is effortless for them, but that's actually not true. So I don't think that it ever goes away, actually. I think it's a part of adult life. Keeping in mind that people don't like to show their weaknesses. And at some point, making a conscious effort to do it. Because I think, where was that? I think I also read somewhere that imposter syndrome is not cured by telling a person that you're doing a good job. Because if you will just tell to the person that they're doing a good job, they will just say, yeah, no, they will not believe you. What actually helps is telling them, hey, I've been through the same. I also feel my insecurities. I also often don't believe in myself. It takes me a lot of courage and energy to go through and sometimes even not to show it. So sharing your story helps much more with imposter syndrome and this feeling of anxiety. That's just saying, hey, you're doing a good job. So next time, if you have a friend or a colleague who you feel suffers from the similar thing, which we all do, don't tell them, hey, you're doing a good job. You're so cool. It just doesn't work. Tell them, yeah, I also doubt myself sometimes. Yeah, it happens. It's part of life.